There are two main theories roaming the planet. One is creationism and the other evolution. Like the proverbial one-party system that is politics, we have been given a smokescreen to steer us away from our true heritage. In fact, neither creationism nor evolution are true, although some truth is included in both. The facts certainly do not corroborate creationism, although followers of mainstream religions like to think so. We need to understand that much of the biblical texts were in fact written and concocted by minions of European monarchy and Venetian black nobility during the late Dark Ages, specifically between the 9th and 14th century AD. This means that large amounts of the Bible were in fact not written by apostles, but by the oligarchy and the early banking cartels which subsequently financed the Vatican. There is no way to say for certain that Jesus existed in physical form. There is much evidence that brings out a better understanding of the Bible in astrotheological terms. There is also much evidence in ancient writings across the world that support the idea of alien visitation and genetic manipulation during the Atlantean period, around 13,000 years ago. Researchers such as Michael Cesarion, Jordan Maxwell, and David Icke offer a range of insights into the ancient texts, mistranslations, etymology, and astrotheology. Indeed, if one studies the works of Tony Bushby and Graham Hancock, a similar conclusion is reached. After carefully researching this subject, one has to agree with many of their points of view, especially since the evidence from the Apocrypha and the Hindu scriptures confirm these claims. Too little credit is given to alternative historical research, and any statements that defy the official story are immediately brushed off as bogus conspiracy claims. At this point, we would like to emphasize the importance of researching all available sources, even the ones you disagree with, in order to reach a satisfactory, educated, and uncut conclusion. We are focused on bringing you the researchable facts, no smokescreens and no disinformation. We encourage everyone to research these topics for yourselves. A lot of elements are taken from the Bible in a symbolic way, but also from paganism, Hindu scripture, astrotheology, and mythology. For anyone who says that myths are just nonsensical folklore, please consider the fact that myths around the world add up and match up more in terms of synchronicity and details than most Bible stories, if taken literally. As a result, it is evident that the myths should be given at least equal, if not more, consideration.
That more than 30,000 written documents from all over the world tell of advanced beings who either came to Earth or were already living on the Earth. This is from a good book called Past Shock by Jack Barringer. Now, the word Nephilim that's used in the Bible to describe these beings really means those who were cast down, not those who came down, okay? Sometimes they mistranslate that. It's those who were cast down. The difference of influence. In a book called the Srimad Bhagavatam of India, there's a quote that says, "It tells of a demon race which invaded the 3 planetary systems. Opposing the demons was the Hindu god Shiva, who possessed a powerful weapon that he fired at the enemy airships from his own." It turns out that about 50,000 years ago, the Sumerian records always talk about 400,000 years ago. If you listen to Zechariah Sitchin when he's talking about the Anunnaki, and he's translated the ancient monuments there and the scripts and the cylinder seals, he tends to put the emphasis on 400,000 years ago. And I tend to have some problems with that, because it's not really corroborated by many of the other peoples and tribes and their writings. The Celtic peoples, the tendency is to believe it's about 50,000 years ago that our planet was actually visited by aliens. And the stories of the legends, when you research them enough and find out what was going on, you actually discover that a race of beings who had been expurged from their own planetary system somewhere else. Some people say Sirius, you know. Others are talking about the Pleiades. There's different philosophies. They had been expunged from their own system in an Armageddon that they had been having on their planet. And they left, and they were being pursued. And they were extremely advanced people. They're where our technology is, maybe even 1,000 years and more in advance. And these beings had space travel. And the stories talk about how they left their own planetary system and they were being pursued, this adversarial power, you see. And it somehow says that they strayed into our solar system while they were being pursued, and they were ahead of their pursuers. And what they did was that they landed, or at least pretended to land, on another planet that used to be in our solar system. Because in a lot of the programs that deal with this, they do tell you what, they show you these things, but they never go into why. Have you ever noticed that after an hour-long, multi-million-dollar program, they still leave you with more questions? So we've got to realize that just displaying the facts and looking at the anomalies is one half of it, but then we need somebody to come along and give the answers, and that they will not do right now on mainstream media.
It kind of comes down to a split between the Anunnaki and the Dracs, right? And on the Dracs you have Omicron Draconian, you have the others, Odedicron Reptilians, and a bunch of others. And then on the Anunnaki side you have the Tothian Anunnaki, and which are like the snake people, and you have the Jehovian Anunnaki and a number of others. And then you have the Weesus taking sides. You have the Weesadrax, Weesadex.
And what about the Syrian Anunnaki? Where do they fit in?
You have, they can come both Jehovian, there's some Jehovian ones, and like Nibiruan ones are primarily Tothian, but not all. Anunnaki tend to hang together. And then the really fancy Anunnaki gene code are the Enochians, all right, where they took both Anunnaki groups and created a master race, right, gene line. All right, so the Enochian Anunnaki, yeah, they're usually high Illuminati guys. You know, running around with
people that look like us, not with little horns or green. People that look like us started to come between their planet and Earth about 450,000 years ago. Why do they look like us? We look like them. Because if you know the Bible, which is based on the Sumerian tales, at some point they engaged in genetic engineering and mixed their genes with the genes of Homo erectus. We can use various scientific terms, but let's say with early hominids to bring about Homo sapiens, us.
We are very quickly arriving at a place where we're going to confront our God. We're going to confront those who have created us. I believe that we are on the precipice of a whole new civilization which is coming on the earth. And I think that this civilization is going to be the most diabolical, the most terrible thing that's ever happened on the earth. And unless we humans get back to our own spirituality and start thinking in terms of being in contact with our divine essence in space, with our divine presence in space, men have called God, but unless we get back in tune with the universe and start appreciating freedom and respect for other people, and I'm not the glowing example of any of this. I'm equally as guilty as everyone else is of forgetting these principles. But I feel that I can best pronounce these principles because I have so fallen short myself. But ultimately there will come a day when we're going to have to realize we are not alone in this universe. And whoever it was that created us, and the mere fact that we are created implies a creator. And whoever it was that created us, I am sure they're watching us. It is my personal opinion that we are not only being visited by extraterrestrial life forms, but they are in fact leading the world. I think that we are being led by other world intelligences right now. And I think that there's going to come a time when whoever created us is going to deal with this hidden agenda. So I think we are all on the cutting edge of something brand new that's coming on the earth. Human freedom.
You know, who would have thought that talking about the evolution of man and creationism and Darwinism, I mean, I got calls for days after you were here. This really piques people's interest. Well, let's start with that, because most people either fall into the category of thinking that creationism, God created the earth and man, or Darwinism, we all sort of evolved from lower life forms. And your research shows, in your opinion, that neither one of those are true.
Right. I've done some extensive research as far as humanity goes. At around 4 million years ago, something appears called the Australopithecines. We are told that we humans evolved from these creatures called Australopithecines that later evolved into something called early Homos, Homo habilis, Homo erectus, and that means man in scientific terms. Neither of those look anything like us. We've all seen the skulls and the body parts in National Geographic. They don't look anything like us. They have no foreheads. They have big brow ridges. They have large, round, nocturnal night vision eyes. They have big, wide noses. Mouths stick off their face, no chin, long arms that dangle down to their knees. In no way do they look human. So anthropologists don't argue the point. They say, you're right, there's nothing that looks human in the so-called pre-human fossil record.
This is where the missing link comes in, that there's something between pre-human man and...
They say we're going to find someday something that is going to indicate a transition from these creatures that existed to man, which looks nothing like them. Humans have no place in the natural flow of life on Earth. So then you have to ask the question, where did we come from?